Okay, so this video has been a little bit delayed. I haven't yet had a draft video for FPL, but today we are coming with what I think could be very close to the perfect draft for FPL, barring a couple of players who have not yet been added to the game, and I'm going to be waiting on price changes for those, but we will talk about them very, very soon. Today we are going to be going through my current draft, which I do think is very, very close to perfect and has taken a couple of days to really perfect, and that is why the video for today has been delayed. Now, starting off with our goalkeeper and defenders, we do have Robert Sanchez in goal. Now, the reasoning for that, as you can see on screen, is because Chelsea do look like one of the best defences from not only last season, but I think, the Club World Cup really showed how good a defence they can be. They did keep a lot of clean sheets in that Club World Cup tournament and looked very, very solid. Now, last year they were the 5th best defence for expected goals conceded, and they still kept 11 clean sheets as well, which isn't really too bad at all. And I do think Sanchez is now going to be the nailed number one for Chelsea this season after, Maignan, that deal collapsed a couple of weeks ago. Now, you can see on screen in terms of price value wise, Petrovic is definitely looking like the best 4.5 million goalkeeper. Now, the reason we've got the stats that we've got, we've got expected goals conceded, tells you how well the defence got on last season. We've got the clean sheets, of course, then the shots from outside the box that were conceded by each team. Now, this is important to consider when picking a goalkeeper, because obviously if a shot is conceded from outside the box, the goalkeeper is going to be more likely to save it than a shot conceded from inside the box. It's just kind of an easier way to look at things. So the likes at Manchester City, obviously you never saw Ederson really pick up any save points at all last season. They only conceded 87 shots from outside of the box. Now, when you're looking more at some of those goalkeepers, Sales could be a really nice one again this year. 177 shots, which is the most out of the top 10 defences last season. 177 shots from outside the box, and they also kept 13 clean sheets. But you would have seen in my team as well, I do have Nico Williams as one of my defenders as well, so I don't want to double up on that Forest defence. But you can look at some of the other teams, and yes, the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool did concede more shots from outside the box than Chelsea did last year, but their goalkeepers are also sitting at a premium price of 5.5 million. So I was looking really for that 5 million price point, because I'm not really too convinced on Petrovic. He probably would have been under heavy consideration if Bournemouth hadn't sold off, the majority of the defence this summer, especially with the likes of Zabarnyi possibly moving on as well. So the Bournemouth defence has been heavily weakened, and I don't know how good Petrovic is going to be. So right now it looks as though a 5 million goalkeeper is going to be best at the start of the season. So that really leaves you with Nick Pope, potentially Sanchez, and Leno as well, before you get down to Sales and Dean Henderson as well. So personally, I think Sanchez is going to be a little bit better than Nick Pope this season. More saves, similar defensive stats, and I think what's really swayed me is the Club World Cup and how solid Chelsea were in defence, and I think they're going to be very, very good this season. So right now I'm going for Sanchez, because I think he will be pretty decent cover for the Chelsea defence, of which I do have none of right now as well. Now, as we move into the actual defenders, I do have two players who have been in every single draft I have made so far, and that is Aït-Nouri and Virgil van Dijk, two premium defenders. Aït-Nouri was actually the first player I did put in my draft, and I haven't seen him in a lot of teams so far. I imagine that's because, it is Manchester City, and a lot of people will be a little bit worried about his minutes. Personally, I do see Vardiol moving back into centre-back, and Aït-Nouri has that left-back spot nailed down for himself. We obviously seen how attacking Vardiol is when he does play in that position, so I do think Aït-Nouri coming into that as a natural left-back is just going to be Vardiol, but even better. He was fantastic for Wolves, getting forwards and getting chances. I think it's even going to be better for Manchester City, and I do think he will play, and I think it is going to be worth the risk going for him. Now, the other player that was in my team since day one was Virgil van Dijk. I think I originally had Frimpong, was told, kind of came to my senses a little bit, and a lot of people told me on Twitter that he might not be as good an option as originally thought. So I did move to Virgil van Dijk after the announcement of defensive defensive contributions. Now, as you can see on screen, we have the top 20 players, the top 20 defenders for defensive contributions. Now, obviously, players will get 2 extra points if they get 10 defensive contributions in a match. Now, what you can see is a little bit of a trend. You know, we've got a lot of the smaller teams, a lot of the weaker teams in the Premier League, or maybe the mid-table teams, their defenders are picking up the defensive contributions mostly. And again, you've got 4 players averaging over the 10 mark every single match. So the likes of Murillo, Tarkowski, Lacroix, and Pinnock all looking like they could get, 2 points per match. But what I've went for Virgil van Dijk is because he is sitting at number 19 and he is the only defender from, like a big 6 top defence kind of team who is in this list. Now, 7.92 defensive contributions per 90 isn't absolutely amazing. He's not going to pick it up in every single match, but I do think it does give a reason to pick him. Liverpool are what the second best defence in the league last season. He is going to get clean sheets. He's also going to get goals from corners, and if he can pick up 2 extra points in every second match, every third match, I think he's definitely going to be a fantastic option to have. Now, from Forest, I did want to have a Forest defender in there. You saw from the defensive contributions in the last one that we've got 3 Forest players in there. Milenkovic is up there for defensive contributions. Murillo is obviously number 1, but we've also got Nico Williams in here as well. Now, as you can see on screen, he is 10th for defensive contributions per 90, averaging just over 9. So again, another player who could be looking at 2 points per match, or at least 2 points every other match. And I think that is really what is going to, provide points for defenders this season. At the end of the day, if he's going to pick that up in 2 matches, that is more than an assist. And let's say Williams picks it up every second match, you're looking at an assist every 3 or 4 games as the equivalent. So I think you'd definitely be looking at a defender who is able to provide that many assists over the course of the season. So I do think defensive contributions, those 2 points, is going to be a big factor. I know a lot of people could be overlooking that it is it's just 2 points, but at the end of the day, an assist is worth 3, and if you've got a defender picking up an assist every couple of games, he's going to be a huge FPL pick. So Nico Williams is in here. Against the other Forest defenders, I've seen the likes of Aina in every other team, but I think Williams does kind of trump him a little bit. He's clearly got the most shots in the Forest team, despite having a lot less minutes as well. And in terms of key passes, he does beat Aina there as well. Now, Aina does have the higher XG and expected assists, but I think this could be the year that Williams does trump him for that. Again, ideally, I probably would pick someone like Murillo. Again, he is number 1 for defensive contributions, but he is 0.5 more expensive, and I think you do get enough from Nico Williams with the attack threat potentially moving forward, getting that many shots off, and still providing good defensive contributions. He could be a really nice one to go for, to save that 0.5 million over Murillo. And then my other 2 defenders, I've got De Kuyper and Konza. I did put a tweet out yesterday talking about the defensive rotations for 4.5 million defenders, and this was a duo that did pop up. I'm a big fan of De Kuyper. He's a new signing at left back for Brighton and should start with Estupiñán now out of the squad. And he's someone who's always done quite well in fantasy games. For Club Brugge, he was really good in UCL fantasy, and if you played Euro fantasy, he was really good for Belgium a couple of years ago as well. So a really nice player in fantasy games in the past, and I hope he does bring that to FPL. So he's someone that I'm definitely interested in, and obviously can always rotate him with Konza as well. Now, I do have Kinski as my backup goalkeeper. It doesn't look as though we're going to have a 4 million starting goalkeeper this season, so that could be something to potentially look at as we get closer to it. But I think Sanchez is someone I would happily keep for the entire season, and that is kind of where I'm looking for the defence. I want to kind of have a lot of players that are going to be able to be set and forgets. The likes of Van Dijk, the likes of Sanchez, the likes of Aït-Nouri, potentially Williams as well, are all players I would like to try and hold for the season if they don't pick up any injuries, at least until I wildcard a couple of weeks down the line. Now, moving into the midfield spots, we do have Salah and Palmer, who right now are the two premiums that I'm most interested in. Salah, of course, I feel like you just have to have him. I don't have Haaland in this draft, so that's a bit of a spoiler for the front three. But I have Salah in there because he gets the extra goal point over Erling Haaland. I think they do match each other in terms of points over the season anyway. He is an extra 0.5 more expensive, but I don't want to go into the season heavily behind, which I did last year. Last year I didn't own Salah until game week 12, and it really did hinder me, so I don't want to go without Salah and make that same mistake again this year. So he is absolutely nailed in the squad for game week 1. Then I've got Cole Palmer as well. Again, a really, really good performance in the Club World Cup, and Chelsea have some really nice fixtures off the bat, so he is obviously going to be on penalties, the talisman for Chelsea, and I do think he plays really well at the start of this season, and he is a player that is very flexible. I can move to other players like Bruno Fernandes, like Bukayo Saka. There's just a lot of options if Palmer doesn't get off to the start that, you know, you potentially would want him to go for. But, you know, again, he's another one kind of like Salah. A lot of people do own him at this point of the game, and he's another one I wouldn't want to go and do well at the start of the season and then miss out on his points. Now, another one I've got is Morgan Rogers at 7 million. Now, I think with someone like him, you've got to really forget the fact that he was only 5 million last year. 7 million is still a very, very good price for him considering the players around him. You've got a lot of options at 6.5, and then in between that and the 8.5 region, there isn't really too much, so I do think Morgan Rogers does offer some good value. You can see his player profile on screen as well. You are getting 90 minutes from him. You know, Unai Emery seems to really, really like having him on for the majority of the match. You can see he played 90 minutes in half of the Premier League games last year, and he played over 80 minutes in 29 of those 38 matches. So he is a player who is going to be getting the minutes, and of course for a good team that is kind of what you want to be looking for. In terms of penalties, it's a little bit different. We still don't really know. We still don't really have confirmation on who the Villa penalty taker is going to be. You can see Watkins and Tielemans did take penalties last year alongside Asenzo and Rashford. Obviously they two are not there anymore. Watkins obviously scored 2 out of 2 last year, and Tielemans missed his penalty. So right now it does look as though Watkins is going to continue to be the penalty taker for Aston Villa, but they did switch it up a lot last year, and there could be an opportunity for Morgan Rogers to potentially be at least the backup penalty taker, maybe the primary penalty taker for Aston Villa this year. He doesn't have a great penalty record. He's only took 3 in his career, but he has scored 2 of them, and potentially it could be an option for him. And if we do go into game week 1, game week 2, and Villa get a penalty, which he does end up taking, you are going to see him being mass transferred in, because I think a lot of people are going to want him if he does take the penalties for Villa. Now, my 6.5 million midfielder of choice was Enzo Fernandez. Quite a difficult pick, and you do have a lot of decent picks, as you can see on screen, for 6.5 million midfielders, but who I did choose was Enzo Fernandez. And as you can see on the screen, there is a lot of good, options and reasons to pick different players. For someone like Enzo, you're getting minutes from him. Out of the 8 players on screen, Enzo Fernandez picked up the most minutes last year. He also got 14 goals and assists, which is really good for someone who is just a central midfielder. He does kind of play that number 10 role. We do have to kind of wait and see what happens with Xavi Simons, as Chelsea signing him, going to move him back a little bit. Would obviously make him a little bit worse of an option, but 14 goals and assists last season does keep up with the likes of Matoma and Sarr playing a lot further forward. The same with his shots taken, 53 shots, again is still up there with a lot of the big wingers. Big chances created, again the same, 13 big chances created is up there with a lot of these players. Sarr 17, Declan Rice at 17 as well. It was definitely someone that I'm considering. Another player got 11 goals and assists last year and really, really nice minutes. Expected goal involvement, 12.3 XGI is still really, really good, and of course his defensive contributions are still really good for a player who does play further forward. So from what I'm seeing here, the 3 players that I do really like is Enzo Fernandez, Declan Rice and Ndiaye, who of course is now a midfielder and is on the penalties for Everton. So that's kind of where I'm getting. Those three are the three under consideration for me right now. And looking at the fixtures, Chelsea have really good fixtures, Arsenal not so much. Obviously, for Declan Rice, it's going to be more defensive contributions from him. And then Ndiaye has decent fixtures, not amazing fixtures, which is why my choice is going to be Enzo Fernandez here, who does have really nice fixtures for the first couple of matches. And that is another one, that's probably a position where I would be looking to use my transfers. Hopefully, if I can save them in the defence and goalkeepers, I can kind of use my transfers in midfield and attack. And at that 6.5 million range, there's of course so many different options available that Enzo could just switch really between anyone. Now on the bench, you will notice a new player who has been added to the game, and that is John Arias for Wolves. Now if you played Club World Cup Fantasy, you will know who exactly this is, because he was one of the best budget players for Fluminense in that game. Now if you don't know who he is, he's kind of one of those get to know players. Only 5.5 million. I feel like he has been underpriced by FPL. I feel like 6 million, 6.5 would have kind of been his range that I would have priced him at. 5.5 does feel like a steal, especially for a position that doesn't really have a lot of decent players at that price point. Now, with Arias, what you're getting is 90 minutes from, obviously his time at Fluminense. He was a high minutes player. We don't know how it's going to be at Wolves. He is a winger, so it does seem as though he could potentially be your Cunha replacement, although he is primarily a right winger. He played every single match for Fluminense in the Club World Cup, who obviously done really well and went far in the tournament. He was a 90-minute man throughout the entire thing. What is really appealing about him is that he was on all set pieces as well for Fluminense. He took penalties, he took free kicks, and he took corners. Now, obviously the Wolves penalty spot is up for grabs, so I do think whether it is going to be Strand Larsen or Arias who could definitely take those penalties. If he is going to be the penalty taker, he's looking like a fantastic option at only 5.5 million. And in terms of his stats last year, you're looking at a return every 2 matches or so. Again, we're looking at a totally different league, a totally different environment. Don't know if he's going to be able to carry that on, but I think at only 5.5 it is going to be a great option. And for now, obviously, he is playing against Man City in match day 1 or game week 1. Wolves don't have terrible fixtures after that, so I do think, even as a bench option, as a backup, he could be a really nice one to have a look at for the first couple of weeks, and just have kind of sitting there as a nice budget, cheap midfielder option. And then up front is really where I am looking at some placeholder options. Now, Solanke has been in my team since the start because there really isn't any strikers at this point that I am liking at all, really. I think Haaland at 14.5 is way too expensive. I did have a tweet about it, as you will be able to see on screen. There wasn't really a lot of the strikers right now that are really, really appealing to me whatsoever. So Solanke has been the one that I have chosen. They do have Burnley at home in match day 1. Then beside him, I've got Watkins. Now Watkins is just a placeholder for hopefully Gyökeres. I'm hoping Gyökeres is going to be a little bit cheaper than Saka. I think the fact that Etikike has been priced at 8.5, we could see Gyökeres at similar pricing. I'm hoping for 9 million, that way I don't have to change anything about this team, and I'll just put Gyökeres straight in. And I think I would generally be looking at what could be my team for game week 1, because I don't think a lot would change from this. But Gyökeres at 9 million would be absolutely perfect for me. At 9.5, I think then I'd be looking to downgrade one of my defenders to probably Esteve, who's only 4 million. So that would either be De Kuyper or Konza. Probably Konza in that situation would be the downgrade there. So if I can get 9.5 for Gyökeres, he comes straight into this squad, and then my team, honestly, I do feel would be as perfect as it possibly can be. I think that defence is looking fantastic for defensive contributions, for attacking returns. I feel like there's a very good mix going on there. The midfield, we've obviously got 2 premiums, a nice 90-minute player in Rodgers, a 90-minute player in Enzo Fernandez, and a nice, upcoming differential in John Arias as well. And it really is just that striker spots that I'm struggling to fill right now, and Gyökeres would go straight into the team if he is 9.5 or cheaper, because I think he'll absolutely bang them in for Arsenal, and I think there's a good chance that he does take penalties off of Saka as well, who isn't really great at them, to be honest, and does seem to give them away quite a lot. So I think Gyökeres could come in there and be the penalty taker, because he has a fantastic penalty record. I believe it's 35 out of 38 he's scored in his career, so a fantastic record. Definitely looking like the guy who could come in and take them off of Saka. But that is going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, because of course we'll have lots more pre-season content. We've got lots of videos planned to come out for FPL before the season starts, so make sure you turn on notifications as well so you know exactly when that comes out. Of course, we have our new rules explained on the screen right now if you want to get a little bit more of a deeper look into this year's new FPL rules, if you want a video to watch. And of course you can subscribe right here as well. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the draft and what changes you would make, and also if you've got any hidden gems that you want to let us know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.